The Cosmic Reset. From the frozen steppes of Eurasia to the sun-baked temples of the Nile, welcome to Remnants of Time. For us, the New Year is a moment of celebration, a burst of fireworks, and a list of resolutions. But for the ancient world, the turning of the calendar was not a party, it was a cosmic crisis. It was the moment when the forces of chaos, which constantly gnawed at the edges of the ordered world, threatened to break through. The New Year was the annual recreation of the universe. It was a sacred drama, a complex ritual designed to ensure the sun would rise, the crops would grow, and the very fabric of reality would hold for another cycle. Tonight, we explore three of the most profound and dramatic New Year's celebrations in history, moments when humanity stood on the precipice of time and fought to guarantee a new dawn. Chapter 1. The Binding of the Years, the Aztec Gamble. We begin with the Aztec Empire, where the New Year was not an annual event, but a moment of existential dread that occurred only once every 52 years. The Aztec calendar was a masterpiece of interlocking cycles, and when these cycles finally aligned, the entire world held its breath. This was the completion of the calendar round, and the Aztecs believed that at this precise moment, the fifth sun, the current era of creation, could end. To prevent the world's destruction, they performed the New Fire Ceremony, or Toxiomopilia. As the 52-year cycle drew to a close, all fires in the entire empire were extinguished. People would smash their pottery, destroy their household idols, and fast for 5 days. The world was plunged into a terrifying darkness, a symbolic return to the chaos before creation. On the final night, priests would lead a procession to the summit of the Hill of the Star. They would wait for the constellation of the Pleiades to cross the meridian. If the stars failed to appear, it meant the gods had abandoned them, and the world would be devoured by star demons. But if the stars crossed successfully, a collective sigh of relief would sweep across the land. A new fire would be drilled into the chest of a sacrificial victim, a spark that represented the rebirth of the sun. Torches lit from this sacred flame were then carried in a frantic race down the hill to every temple and home. As the fire arrived, new fires were lit on every hearth, and a great feast was held. The world had been saved, and the cycle was bound for another 52 years. For the Aztecs, the New Year was a cosmic gamble, a terrifying reminder that their existence was a fragile gift, won only through ritual and sacrifice. Chapter 2. The King's Humiliation, Babylon's Akitu. Next, we travel back to the cradle of civilization, the great city of Babylon, where the New Year was an 11-day epic known as the Akitu Festival. The Akitu was a ritual reenactment of the Babylonian creation epic, where the god Marduk defeats the chaos goddess Tiamat. The entire festival was designed to guarantee Marduk's victory and thus the order of the cosmos for another year. The spiritual tension built for days, culminating in a ritual that seems unthinkable for a powerful empire, the humiliation of the king. The king, the living embodiment of the state, was temporarily stripped of his royal regalia. He was led before the high priest, who would slap him across the face and pull his ears. The king would then kneel and confess his innocence, swearing that he had not neglected the city or the temple. The ultimate sign of a successful ritual? Tears. If the king wept, it meant Marduk had accepted his repentance and his reign would continue. This was a profound act of status reversal, a symbolic death and rebirth of the king with the dying and renewing year. The king was humbled, the social order was temporarily dismantled, only to be ritually re-established, stronger than before. The Akitu was a magnificent theatrical spectacle, a testament to the Babylonian belief that order must be ritually re-established every year through the power of myth and the submission of the highest authority. Chapter 3: The Star and the Flood, Egypt's Wepet Renpet. Finally, we turn to the land of the pharaohs, where the new year was called Wepet Renpet, the opening of the year. The Egyptian New Year was tied not to a calendar date, but to the cosmos and the geography of Egypt. It was marked by the heliacal rising of the star Sirius. When Sirius reappeared just before dawn, it heralded the imminent, life-giving inundation of the Nile. The new year was therefore the moment of rebirth for the entire nation. On New Year's Day, the statues of the deities were brought out of the dark sanctuaries and carried up to the temple roofs. Here, they were exposed to the first rays of the rising sun, allowing the divine essence of the sun god Ra to recharge them for the coming year. But the celebration was not all solemnity. The Egyptians also held the Feast of Drunkenness, a time of unbridled revelry, music, and heavy drinking. This was linked to the myth of the goddess Sekhmet, who was stopped from destroying humanity only by drinking beer dyed red to look like blood. The ritual drunkenness was a way to appease the destructive forces of the year's end and ensure the return of benevolence and fertility. The Egyptian New Year was a profound acknowledgement that their civilization was utterly dependent on the rhythm of the Nile and the silent, guiding light of a distant star. Conclusion: the echoes of time. We have seen that for the ancients, the New Year was a moment of profound spiritual vulnerability. Every civilization, regardless of its gods, understood that time is a cycle, and at the end of that cycle, the world must be ritually cleansed and renewed. Whether it was the terrifying gamble of the Aztecs, the political drama of the Babylonians, or the natural rhythm of the Egyptians, the core impulse remains the same: the need to pause, to reflect, to cleanse, and to ensure that the sun will rise on a world renewed. This is the enduring remnant of time, the spiritual legacy of the new year.